Hey, Cindy, just heard you in the background saying don't manipulate. We don't manipulate anybody. Okay, this is Jim.
And Ralph.
And Ralph, we have a special guest here today, the non-manipulative Cindy Walz. Now, this is a kind of a special program because normally on Psych Takeaway, we talk about what is eating people, depression, hysteria, anxiety. But today we're going to be talking about what people eat.
Which can often cause depression, anxiety, and all of those other things that aren't good for you.
Oh, great. I think we'll just have some of my coffee here now. Okay.
Yes, coffee always calms me down.
Especially the 14th or 15th cup. Right? Well, it's kind of interesting. We were talking here a minute ago before the podcast began about food. And former President Donald Trump says if he gets elected, he's going to have Robert Kennedy Jr. as kind of a food czar. And I hadn't thought about that, but, we've got people in charge of energy and transportation, but we really have not had anybody in charge of food. Now, Cindy, you are a chef, and we're in your beautiful chef kitchen. I mean, this is kind of a studio, right?
Studio kitchen, I call it.
Yeah, okay. What do you think about food, eating, and the general health, either physical or mental health, of the American people?
Well, if I have to sum it up in one thing, I say that we as a culture here in America do not give food the proper place it deserves in our culture. We have a lot of disrespect, and we have changed the way that we eat as a society so much. If you look back 50 years ago of how we ate then and how we eat now, it will show you how much difference there is and how that has contributed to obesity in this country, to illness, to sickness. Another one of my mottos is big food feeds big pharma, because of the additives, because of the things, because of the processing. A lot of the food that we eat is really more damaging than nourishing to our bodies.
Okay, well, let's get to that one a little bit, not the big pharma thing, but the way we eat. I heard recently that people are not putting dining rooms into their new houses. What does that mean? If you don't have a dining room, how do you eat as a family?
Well, a lot of families now eat in the car, eat in the run, eat at their office, eat in front of the television.
Right.
And this is what I was saying about how we eat has really gone from what used to be a family, a gathering together, an opportunity to discuss, the day and what was going on and the dynamics of your family and find out what your kids were doing and honestly, have some good heart-to-heart conversations. Mm-hmm. Now, even in a restaurant, when you go out, you see people, there's 4 people and 2 of them are on their phones.
No, they're not. 4 of them are on their phones.
4 of them are on their phones.
Well,
exactly.
An interesting thing, Cindy, is that the recommendation of dieting now is the Mediterranean diet, which is not so much a diet but a way of eating, and it encourages people to eat together, to sit down as a group, a family and whatever visitors you have, and eat healthy food. Now, in the Mediterranean, this tends to be food which is grown
near the Mediterranean.
Which doesn't have additives, high fructose corn syrup and so on. And you think about that and think, well, yeah, I can remember as a kid growing up and, talking with my mom and dad and, they were interested in what I had to say about school. Today, you get grunted in your car driving home, how was school? Okay, that's it,
Exactly. The family dynamic went away or changed the dynamic of the family with fast food and, that kind of convenient food and things like that. It changed the whole dynamic of the family. It took away the dinner hour. And, sure, there's lots of people out there who still value it. And you look now, there's more and more people who are homesteading and growing their own food and taking measures to, do those kind of things. But from the very beginning of civilization, food has always been at the core of the gatherings for people. So there's something to that. There's something to that with people communicating and breaking bread together. I'm big onto, I always now, when we do parties and whatever, I try to encourage people to serve the food family style instead of plate it up, because that way you're passing and you're talking about the food and you're getting into it and you're having some fun with it, and it's part of the whole experience, and the food becomes not just something that you're eating to hurry up and fill your belly. It becomes part of the whole thing. It feeds your soul, it feeds your mind.
I'm reading a book now, and there's the hero of the book was a college student who survived on beer and pizza, and now he's down south, and he's met some black people, and he's started to go to lunch with them. And he's talking about the 3-hour lunches, that for him were just unimaginable. But the what you said in terms of the culture and getting to know people and getting to know the food. What about you, Cindy? If we think about knowing the food, Ralph mentioned the Mediterranean diet. Is there any kind of a quotes diet or reintroduction that we should have to the food around us?
Well, there's just so much stuff out there now. I mean, you don't even really know what to believe and what to look at and what to, they'll say, don't eat this, don't do this, don't do this.
Yeah, red wine's good for
Right.
avoid white.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's confusing for people, and it's disheartening because they get discouraged and then they just don't, then they get deflated. And when you talk about the psychic and everything, and you talk about people who are overweight or struggling with health issues and struggling with things, and they don't know where to turn or what to go. So one of the classes that I'd like to teach is something about introducing food to you, what resonates with you and what your body calls for. Because, Mother Earth, and I do believe that the food that you eat should be grown in the garden and not processed. And there's plenty of it, and you can make it very tasty with herbs and spices. I do believe that plants are medicine, and I do believe that you can control your health a lot with what you eat.
Okay.
And so I'd like to teach people how to cook so that they can empower their health, so that they can change the way they feel. And I also think of food and cooking as therapy, because cooking is very relaxing if you just learn how to do it. And when you create something in a kitchen, it's remarkable. It's and when you get done, you have actually done something, and you've created something, and you put it on a plate, and you've nurtured it along, and this is like people take pictures of food all the time when they go to restaurants and everything. People could be doing that for themselves. And when people say, well, I don't have time to cook, I say,
Right.
well, you know what, you really don't have time not to, because that is how you're going to take back your health. That is how you are going to control what's going in and out of your body. And so if you learn to do it, and you can learn to, even if you don't love it, if you just can learn to enjoy it, or learn a better way of eating if you don't want to cook.
Well, Ralph's a pretty good cook. I don't have any specialties.
Well,
eating a hot dog up.
I really enjoy making pasta sauce and several other things. I make a killer bean soup, things like
good.
that.
Yeah, you used to be a chef in a restaurant here in town, right, Ralph?
I did, yeah.
Remember?
What restaurant was that?
Falsettas, way back when.
The Casanova?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we loved that restaurant.
So Ralph goes back a long way. That's when you were actually cooking dinosaur meat, right, Ralph?
Yes. I started out there. I was working for CMU, washing pots and pans for 75 cents an hour, and Tony Falsetta found an ad, not an ad. He just posted in the wash-up room for Central.
Hey, we'll give you a buck.
Yeah, we'll pay you $1.25 to come and wash up. I was there like a dirty shirt. I came in and said, "Okay, I'm here, Tony." And so I was passing things through a dish machine, and then he said, "You're pretty reliable. Do you want to be a sandwich boy?" And I said, "Sure."
And
So
remember the #1 sandwich at Walz?
Yeah, the #1.
That was really
Yeah.
great. Well, Ralph
It
used to make a
yeah,
ton of those.
Yeah.
and
Anyhow,
then
we're here to talk with Cindy, Ralph.
we had a sous chef who quit. Tony said, "You want to be the second chef?" And I said, "Well, I could try." So I don't know whether to call it the highlight or the low light of my second chef experience was a big sports event with all of the teams from all of the CMU programs came in, and we put out 450 steaks on a grill about the size of that stainless steel counter over there.
I believe it. People always say, they go, "Well, where do you work? You must need a big." I said, and then they see the size of the kitchen, and they go, "You put out all of this stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, and it's stuff you don't even know about. We've done 2 catering events out the back door while we were serving this."
So the excuse of I don't have enough
No.
time or I don't have enough room doesn't work, right?
Not really.
No, okay.
I mean, not if you really want to start, taking better care of yourself.
Mhm.
And I think that would resonate with a lot of people. It's just we're not geared that way, and actually, culture gears us the opposite way. We have to be too busy. We have to be too this. We have to be tuned in. We have to be on top of all of these things. While we're on top of all of these things, we're not on top of the thing that can feed us the best and take care of us the most.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I think you said is, tell me what you eat and I can tell you about yourself. Does that ring a bell? Did you say something like that?
No, I don't think so. Did I
Okay.
say something like that?
I don't know. Is there a relationship between, say, food preferences and personality?
I would say that there probably is, but I would say that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people would like that so much. If tell me what I eat and I'll tell you about your personality. They very well might not like that, but I'm sure there is something to that.
Mhm. Well, I mentioned that because we've been talking about personality for the last 4 or 5 podcasts, and so I just wondered if there was a personality dynamic that would go along with red meat versus white meat.
What I think the personality dynamic would be is when you find what really resonates with you and what you really like. Yes, I would say, and it would also go to maybe, your dosha and your blood type and your whatever, because different people with different blood types and different doshas eat differently and they need different things, where some people, thrive on a vegan diet. I tried a vegan diet once. My husband and I went on a vegan diet, and he soared, I plummeted. I couldn't, I like meat. I've always liked meat. I could do it. I did it for like maybe, 3 months, but I did not feel good. And somebody said, eat some beef. You're not the type that needs to be a vegetarian. You need to, and so I did, and I started feeling better. But one of my troubles, and I think what a lot of people have a struggle with, is we eat too much. Even if you eat good food, if you eat too much, it's not good for you.
Right. So you're supposed to eat, what, about 2,000 calories a day if you're kind of built like Ralph or I, about 5'10", medium build. I was looking at something the other day. It was a snack something. And it had about 650 calories in it all by itself. Eat about 3 of those a day and you've got your 2,000 calories, and that's only the beginning. So
And I laugh because it's and nuts are a healthy fat. Nuts, walnuts, and pecans or whatever. But a couple handfuls, and it's like, well, I've eaten my calories for the day and nuts, and I'm going to be hungry again.
I'm going nuts right now. Yeah.
Right.
Well, Ralph said this morning as we were driving over here to your studio that Americans spent, what did you say, Ralph? $12 billion on
$12 billion on
Halloween snacks that we gave away
Not
yesterday.
on Halloween
what's
snacks,
really-
but on Halloween
Oh,
decor.
oh, okay.
Okay.
But they,
the candy was part of that.
yeah, the candy was part of that. They spent, the average household spent 52 or 56, I can't remember, dollars each household.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. And I got to tell you, I had a real twinge of guilt last night when I was handing out candy. I did. I felt bad. It's like our kids don't need that. It's so bad for them. And then here I was. If I could have afforded it, I would have given out dollars. And as few trick-or-treaters as I had, I probably could have. But I did. I felt bad. I don't want kids to eat that.
Hey, we were giving out bags of potato chips, and we had Hershey's candy, and we had tangerines. Nobody wanted a tangerine.
Nobody wants it. It's the same thing in schools. And that's why, back Michelle Obama did that thing with the schools, and the chef moves to the schools, and I participated in that out in St. Louis and in Alma because I was the chef at Alma College back then. And so I know a lot about kids and their eating habits and what they, an interesting fact is, you know what the biggest spend on a college campus is for the food service? The biggest spend,
A box knife?
nope,
Okay.
cereal.
Huh, okay.
Cereal is they eat that cereal and milk and all of those sugared cereals and all of that stuff. That is one of our biggest spends.
Well, that's good for you, isn't it?
Chocolate frosted
Well,
sugar.
Snap, crackle, and pop?
Exactly, right,
Oh,
right,
okay.
exactly. And I mean, so it's interesting, but, it was going to those schools and working with those kids and, even like I was walking through Sam's the other day and I saw this healthy kids poster and all of this stuff, and they had pop and potato chips and gum and Doritos, and I'm thinking,
That's the 5 food groups, huh?
right, I just, like I say, we're off target here and we need to get back, and it's going to take
Yeah.
a while, and it's not people's fault. I'm not being critical or judgmental because I fall into the same thing too, but we got to work together to understand that this is not healthy for our kids or for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
Well,
you mentioned obesity. That is a big problem here in America, no question. And the problem is that people are eating stuff that's bad for them because they can't get the sustenance, right?
Right. And when you you're talking about psychology and you're talking about those kind of things in your last podcast, this is huge with all of that kind of thing, because think of obesity and think of women and how self-conscious they are about their weight and whatever, and think about how the media and everything brings all of these things to people. Think what that does to the way they feel about themselves. And the way they feel about themselves is major about about how they show up in the world and what what they believe they can do and who they believe that they are. And it runs deep. I'm not trying to be like a psychologist, because I'm not. But this is deep, and I do believe in my heart that food has a way to help people to overcome some of those things.
Yeah, well, one of the things I know is that if you eat a lot of sugared foods and you eat things like potato chips, which is my
They're so
What's your
good.
downfall?
They're
Yeah.
so good.
what happens is you end up with cravings. And then people who say, well, I can't control my cravings. So their doctor says, okay, for weight loss and maintenance, we're going to put you on Ozempic or Wegovy. And so you can shoot yourself and you'll lose weight. And, it's magic. Except what happens is you're on Ozempic for a year and you lose 25 pounds. That's great. And then you say, I don't need it anymore, and you quit.
Then what happens?
You gain the 25 pounds back
Plus.
in about
Plus some.
6 months.
Plus some.
Less some.
And so you say, well, wait a minute, now I have to go back on Ozempic again. So we know we can end up with a bounce, kind of like a tennis match. You know, we go from big to smaller to big to smaller, and that's the psychology of our cravings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jackie Gleason used to say he had two wardrobes: his fat wardrobe and his thin wardrobe. No,
Right.
we don't. I just have one wardrobe, so I can't get too big, too small.
And I always say, I'm not buying anything in another size. So it's like, but you know, it's true. I mean, and the problem with the Ozempic and the things like that is it leads people and it keeps people stuck in the, I can have what I want what I want instant gratification, I want it now, and I want what I want. I don't like squash, I don't like apples, I don't like those. I want potato chips, I want a candy bar, and how do you think you manifest all of that? I mean, where did that come from? That's all I want to eat. I don't really, I don't like squash. I said, well, have you ever, I don't like, if like I've taken to now, because I'm a sugar person. I can be addicted to sugar, and I love a Reese's cup, and but I find now that I'll take a sweet potato and bake it, and I'll put some sautéed apples on top of it with a little walnuts and some pumpkin seeds, and I eat that, and it cures my sugar craving. Plus, it also nurtures my body in a great way, and I start to feel great. And like you said, I can't control my cravings. The thing about it is your body craves what you feed it. So if you switch the way you feed it, and yes, is it miserable for a month? It's miserable for a month. It's miserable. But you know what? After the misery comes the reward, comes the energy, comes the life.
Reward, energy, cognition, thinking about food. This has been a really interesting podcast, Cindy. We're just about at the end of our time here, but do you think we could stay around and record a second podcast today?
Well, I would love that.
Oh, okay. So until our second podcast, this is Jim.
And Ralph saying, keep your stick on the ice, because we're all in this together.
That's good.